Hey guys, alright, so in this video we're going to go over a couple of POBs. We're going to go over the Aegis Smite builds. So I've been making some POBs and basically made quite a few of these Smite or dual wield Smite and Aegis builds. And we're going to cover them there. I think there's a lot of people who want to get into armor stacking, especially on like a, lower-ish budget. So I made a couple of POBs for that. We're going to cover the POB, go over everything you need to know about it, what are the important stats on the items, why we're doing certain things, kind of explain the build a little bit in this video. We're also going to cover some more of the endgame versions of the build, and that's pretty much it. We'll cover the mercs as well. Okay, so I did kind of change this document around a bit. So this is the Armor Stacker Compendium. It's linked in every single one of my videos, and I might link a POB in different videos of like the POB I was using at the time or that kind of stuff. But I recommend you come to this document to get your POBs, as it's going to have all of the latest versions of the build, which are probably going to be better than the ones that are included in the videos. Okay, so first of all, quickly talk about the document. So on the left-hand side, we have our low-budget setups. This is Mage Blood 200 Divines-ish. And you can see here, you can get away with using some cheaper items. Like these ones have like some corruptions, like we have Grace Corruption on the Amulet and that kind of stuff. And you don't really need some of these. Like you don't even need a +2 March of the Legion. But I think if I make a POB with items like of this level, people are going to try to make it cheaper, and then it's still going to work pretty much. But if I make a bare bones POB, people are going to try to make that cheaper, and then that's not going to work. So I think it's good to include, I think this is a good starting point, I think, to look at of what your starter build would look like. And then anyways, I'll cover the items in this video so you know what are important and that kind of stuff, where you can cut costs and that kind of stuff. Okay, and then we also do have a sword version. This one's pretty fun. You know, it's just using 2 swords, so we get quite a lot of damage. We lose the recovery of Aegis, and so overall I think the Aegis version is going to be the most comfy to play outside of Valdos and that kind of stuff, because you're just never going to die unless you get one shot. And we do have a decent amount of max hit as well, so it's not going to happen that often, I would think. But the good thing is these two builds, the sword version and the Aegis version, same with the endgame as well, pretty much. They're basically interchangeable. Like all you have to do is put on 2 swords and maybe you change a few things on the passive tree and you're good to go. So you can play both versions if you want. You just, one of them uses an Aegis, one uses 2 swords pretty much. Okay, and then for after this point, pretty much, if you want to upgrade further, you would choose either one of these. You want to go into Valdos. There's 2 versions that I think work the best right now. Before I was like trying some of these other things, like I wanted to make a tank version to make the build super tanky for like the Ghosted Feared and that kind of stuff. You can see here we have like 600k elemental max hit, or like a regen version for tons of ES regen. But in the end, I think these 2 ones ended up working the best. And we have the basically we have this one here, like the standard version and the Union Farmer. And the standard version is basically, this one has a lot of damage, like see 13 billion with your burst. So you're gonna have no problem with damage. And then you have a lot of energy shield, pretty much. So you're pretty tanky, pretty cozy. I just zoom around and just go one-shot the Feared. You can clear pretty much any Valdo with this kind of min-max setup. And you're gonna be pretty tanky. So it's gonna be pretty good to play. And then we also have the Union Farmer. This one is made to farm the 5-minute timer, like max tank Valdo maps, like the impossible maps pretty much. This one is made to just go and blast those. On my current build, with about 10 billion burst DPS, I'm clearing the Blasted Monolith in about 3 minutes. It's pretty insane. So this one, for those kind of maps, usually it's just 100% deli, less damage per item, and Union of Souls. Maybe it'll have the Feared. Some of them have Petrify. So there's no real dangerous mods. The Feared get one shot, so you don't need defenses, pretty much. You don't like, I could run these maps with 5,000 energy shield and be fine, right? That's just kind of like all you really care about is clearing the map as fast as possible. So this version of the build basically just kind of doesn't really care that much about defense. I mean, we still have our kind of standard endurance charge, 90 max res, and that's our defensive layer pretty much. That and Molten Shell. So that's all you pretty much need. You just need lots of damage, and that's what this build does. Certainly have that. Okay, and then the Smite Aegis endgame versions are pretty much the same. There's just like the Aegis version or the regen version. The regen version is going to be the 2-sword version pretty much, and we're going to be spec'd into a lot of regen to make the build not just fall over constantly, pretty much. Okay, so let's jump into the POBs. First of all, let's cover the Aegis version. Okay, so this is the Aegis version. First of all, let's talk about all of the items. What are the important things on each one of the items? So yeah, let's just start going over them. First of all, we have the Replica Dream Feather. We're going to need one with RT. And the reason why we need RT is it's over here. Oh, Resolute Technique's over here. This basically means that we don't need to run Precision. A precision R. We don't need to worry about hit rating. Otherwise, we'd have to run precision, right? Because you can actually just go and take elemental overload over here, and then it's the same amount of points, right? But the problem is that you need to run precision in order to get your accuracy, which means you need more mana, which isn't really that big of a problem because you can see we can actually just go and spec more mana reservation, right? And maybe you lose some energy shield. So you don't actually really need an RT sword. You can just do elemental overload and run precision. So, but it's, you know, obviously, it's better if we don't have to run precisions because we have an extra gem slot. We don't have to reserve as much mana, so it's better to actually just run the Resolute Technique. But if you can't really afford one because they can get kind of expensive, then you can always just run Elemental Overload with Precision. Okay, aside from that, all you really care about is a 10% attack speed. In the worst case scenario, you can run an 8 or a 9. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to brick the build. But yeah, ideally the attack speed is what you get. The rest doesn't really matter. Okay, for the Aegis, all we care about is having a very, very high energy shield. The armor is okay as well. The armor doesn't really matter actually. Flat armor does really nothing for the build. So all we care about is having high energy shield. That's pretty much it. The rest of the stats on the item don't matter. For some other good corruptions you can get is, I would say, you get like this one here, like maximum energy shield. Another good one is AoE gems. Or aura gems or socketed gems, and you could put in some auras over there. Right now there's no auras except Vol Haste, but you could swap some auras around and get some aura levels with an Aegis with gem levels and that kind of stuff. Okay, Formless Flame. We don't need any kind of corruptions on this, although if you do get a +2, gem helmet, that's pretty good as well. It's going to give you a lot of damage. This setup does not need to run a level 23 Purity of Fire. So you only need a 21, and you can see we still have 90 max res, and that's because we're going to be running one of these flasks. This flask basically gives us all of our max res, right? So we don't really need to worry about it, but there is some things to kind of take into consideration. There's a couple of items that are going to increase or decrease the cost of the build, and you can kind of choose how you want to do it. So the first thing is we want to be at 90 max res, and the way we do that is with the Purity of Fire and then the Ruby Flask, right? And if our purity is level 21, then we are going to need a -4 Melding of the Flesh. Okay, so if these are expensive, then you can get a -5 or a -6. And then there's a couple things you can do. You can get your purity to level 23 by, like we mentioned, by having a +2 helmet, +2 gloves, or +2 Aegis, and put your Purity of Fire in here, so it becomes level 23. And then you can run a -6 melding. Or you can get a Corrupted Blood Jewel with +2 max fire res, and then you can also run a lower -max res or a higher -max res melding. Right? So that's something to kind of keep in mind when you're putting the build together, is how you want to save money. You want to save money on the melding, then you get a jewel with Corrupted Blood and +2 max fire res, or if it's cheaper to get a +2 Aegis or a +2 helmet, then you get one of those, right? So you can kind of check out what's cheap, right? Okay, so that's that. And then after that, so the body armor, there is 3 types of body armors we want to use, or we can use, I recommend. First one is going to be a necrotic armor, and the reason why I suggested this one in this setup is because I think that the defenses are going to be okay on this setup, and I think most of all with this level of gear you are going to be lacking damage mostly. Defenses aren't going to be as much of a problem as having good damage, so I think necrotic armor is going to be good. Otherwise, if you want more defense, you can go for a Twilight Regalia. It's going to give you quite a lot more energy shield, and you can kind of compare your stats. You will have a little bit less DPS. The problem with these two armors, the Regalia and Necrotic Armor, is Smite is 6 red. You can also run this on a 5 red, 1 blue. You would run Elemental Focus, which isn't actually really that bad. Awaken Elemental Focus is very cheap. You lose the ability to shock with your main link Smite, but your Mercenary will be able to shock for at least 5%, as well as you will get very, very high shocks with your Vol Smite. So it's not really the end of the world to run Awaken Elemental Focus here instead of something like Damage on Full Life. You can do a 5 red, 1 blue, if that's easier, right? So you don't really need to do full 6 red. But it is going to be hard to get these socket colors here, and the way you would get your sockets is you either do white sockets, that's going to probably look the best, but be the most expensive. You can do the Jeweler Orb trick on the crafting bench to get your sockets. You can also do a Heist Enchant, that one of them has a all sockets are red modifier, although that is also going to be quite expensive. So if you want to spend the extra money on getting the socket colors, then I would say these ones are worth it. If that seems like it's too expensive, then you can go for a Sacred Chainmail. This is a armor energy shield base, so it's going to be very easy to just spam chromatic orbs and get your full red in like, I don't know, 100, 200 chromatics. So for easier sockets, the cheapest version probably is going to be a Sacred Chainmail. Okay, so that is the body armors. The way you craft them is very easy. I would say you get a base with a fractured like tier 2 or tier 1 increased energy shield and evasion, or increased energy shield or increased armor and energy shield. And then just harvest, reforge, harvest, or fossils, whichever one's cheaper for defense. And then until you get good prefixes, and then do Eldritch crafting for the suffixes for some good tier of int, like tier 3+ int, and then like tier 2+ resistance. And then one open suffix to craft on all attributes, or the ES regen when a rare or unique is nearby. Okay, so that's how you craft them. Very easy craft. And then for the gloves, Soul Ascension, you want one with at least +5 souls, I would say. I mean, you could run a +0 souls if you're, or even a minus. Even, a minus is going to be fine if you're on a really, really tight budget, but these are amazing. Once you get to at least 20 stacks of Soul Eater, the build just like feels completely different. The main thing is, I guess the attack speed is amazing, but the movement speed you get with Soul Eater on Leap Slam is just insane. It feels really good, just like jumping around it like super fast. March of the Legion, you don't really need to get a +2 corruption, but obviously that's going to give you quite a lot of damage. So if you're on a tight budget, just get one with at least a +5 to socketed aura gems, and that's it. You don't really need a corruption. The other stats on the item don't matter. I would say movement speed and all resistances are probably the most important. If you want your build, if you want to have an easier time on the build, then get one with high all elemental resistances. Okay, so for Whispers of Infinity, this one, all you really care about is a high maximum energy shield roll, and then we catalyst it with defense modifier, so we get even more. We don't really need a corruption on here, but if you can get one with a corruption, you would get one with, we don't need any block, we're well over our block cap, so you go for attack speed. Increased int is okay, movement speed's good, increased strength int is good as well. Strength dex might be okay as well. All res, very good. Determination, extremely good. Grace is like the best one you can get. And then discipline's also very good. There's also one for wrath, I think. Yeah, so wrath is also pretty good. Anyways, so that's some good corruptions you can get for the amulet. And then for our rings, so with the rings, these are like the band-aids of the build, pretty much. Now, we see we're using tons of unique items, and we do need to get our stats mainly and our resistances somehow. And the way we get our stats and resistances is the rings and our clusters. So what I suggest you guys do is you get the clusters first, right? Get all your clusters, put them into your POB with all of your gear, with your gems, with your auras on, and see how much resistance you have. Do you have enough resistances? do you have enough attributes? And then get whatever else you don't have on your rings, right? And the way you would craft these, if you want to craft them, is you craft the suffixes first with some kind of, what do you call it, attribute essence. So like strength essence or int essence. Ideally, you do have int on here because that's going to give you more energy shield. But in this case, I didn't want to put attributes on the clusters because then it might just be a little bit weird for people. Like, oh, I have to find a cluster with +8 strength on it, right? It's going to be a little bit hard to find. So, but I do suggest you either when you try to get attributes on the clusters, attribute resistance on the clusters, and then whatever else you don't have on the rings. Okay, so you craft with the essence until you get all res and 1 resistance, or all attributes is okay. And then for the prefixes, you just lock suffix, and then you reforge defense until you get energy shield. Or you don't even have to. You can just exalt slam, right? It's not the end of the world if you have bad prefixes, because the prefixes don't really do that much on the ring. We're just using it for resistances. You can also get a misted ring, right, that has just tons of resistances on it and maybe some stats, right? And that'll be good as well. And after that, for the Mage Blood, we definitely need one of these, a 4 flask Mage Blood. So make sure you have one of these before you start. And then for our flasks, there's a couple of flasks we're using here. So Basalt, Stibnite, Silver. And then if you want to go fast, you get rid of the Stibnite, right? This is going to be a damage loss, quite a lot of damage loss. But this is where you would put your Quicksilver, right? And you might think, okay, why don't we get rid of the silver flask and put our thing here? But then it's not going to be a lot of movement speed, guys, right? Because this gives you a lot of movement speed. Right, 136% from, right, this is like quite a lot of movement speed, so, and also attack speed, so this is a lot of damage as well. So I would suggest just get rid of the Stibnite and put on a Quicksilver with increased armor or evasion if you have them swapped, right? So this is what you change for a Quicksilver. We need the Ruby Flask and Basalt Flask cannot change. These two need to be here, right? And then for the flask suffix, we need evasion, armor, all res. This one can be changed for something else if you want. But I do recommend this crafted mod, because this 3% regenerate 3% of life gets scaled by the flask effect. So this ends up being like 600 ES regen. So definitely keep this if you can. For the tincture, we need the Oak Branch tincture. This is our source of rage. Very good uptime, especially with a lot of mana leech. We do want to get as much gain, the rage on hit. With a 25 quality tincture, you can get up to +5 rage on melee hit if you roll a 35% increased effect prefix. So definitely try to get a 25 quality if you can. Those can be very rare though, so if you can't get one of those, it's okay. You'll just have a gain 4 rage on melee hit, which isn't the end of the world either. It's not going to break the build. As far as the suffix, you can get penetration or attack speed. Both of them are roughly the same. Penetration is a little bit more damage. For the jewels, we start with the Timeless Jewel. We need a Brutal Restraint. The Conqueror doesn't matter. We want to put it over here because this is like a pretty good spot. This also gives us a lot of dex. This like fixes your dex, like 69 dex. All we care about is the aura effect. You see, and you do want to try to get one with at least 16%. So you can have 8% here, 8% here. You can also get, you can get your mana reservation mastery here, and then just kind of like path down this way, right? You actually get 1 extra point this way, but you lose a lot of mana, right? So you could do something like this, and maybe if you need extra mana, you put one here, right? So, or you can't even do that. Anyways, so you can do this as well. You might have to fix your mana. We don't really need mana, that's the thing. The only reason we have a little bit of mana is for the tincture. So the tincture actually kind of works, right? I think that would work, right? I haven't actually played with this setup yet, but I think I don't think these tinctures are going to start burning your energy shield, right? Okay, and obviously if you don't really want to use a tincture, you can use some other kind of flask like the Explodey Flask or the Divination Card Flask, right? Those ones will work as well. You just won't get Rage, which might be a problem, so you could sock it in your Smite. You could do Rage on hit, or you could spend a few points. It's like 2 points to gain the Rage on hit here, right? So you'd have to kind of move some things around, but it's possible. Okay, so that is this, and you find your Timeless Jewel in PLB. Just click over here. Brutal Restrain, any. You want to look for ones in Conduit. You go for Aura Effect. And then filter nodes would only selects the nodes that we have selected, and we just click search, and you get a list of all the good timeless jewels with you can do, and you can just copy that to trade and find them. Okay, so that's how you get the timeless jewel. And then we are going to need some other jewels. We kind of talked about the melding with the you know, how much minus maximum resistances you can get. So in this setup, we're going for a -4 because we don't have a level 23 purity. So, and we're also not using a jewel with +2 max fire res. So keep that in mind when you're buying those 3 items, or like the 3 items like the melding, the rare jewel with the corrupted blood, and your Aegis, Formless Flame, or Soul Ascension, right? So keep that in mind when buying that. For the jewel, yeah, just the corrupted blood jewel. And then we are going to need a Thread of Hope with a large ring so that we can pick up Glancing Blows. Divine Shield is also a nice pickup over here. And for the other jewels, for the Watcher's Eye, we're going to need one with you take reduced damage from crits. I think that's probably the most important mod to get in this specific setup. And then the Lightning Pen is probably going to be the next best one. Okay, so this is the setup, guys, for Aegis. So there's some things you can drop if you're not level 100. Obviously, we can drop some energy shield here. We can drop some... I mean, you are going to need some more dex because we're losing dex from our... how would you say? Timeless Jewel. So you can drop Divine Shield. You can drop these endurance charges, probably. You could even drop the Watcher's Eye slot. What else can we drop? I think this is kind of pushing it, but it seems like level 91 would be a good starting point. Yeah. Okay, so some other cool things we're doing. Let's talk about the Runegrafts. We have the Runegraft of the Fortress. Since we don't have a lot of attributes, this gives us quite a lot of increased energy shield, as well as some extra damage. And then we're also going to be using the Runegraft of the Warp. This is pretty insane because if we take a look at our... let's take a look at the Vol Smite. Our Vol Smite is 18-second duration, plus... no, then it's times 1.3 because of the Runegraft of the Warp. So... it's like a 25-second Vol Smite, which is insane. Just imagine like a 25-second Vol Smite buff. That's crazy. I've never seen something that long. Okay, and also your Grace Aura is going to be lasting 25 seconds as well, ish. So, pretty insane. Okay, and then that is pretty much it for the Runegrafts for the tattoos. We want to get 10 chance to avoid being stunned tattoos. If you have extra strength, you tattoo Fire Res or Armor. Fire Res is better. And then whatever you can on your energy shield, you can tattoo 3% increased maximum energy shield. Keep in mind that doing this is going to start reducing your mana because int gives mana. So keep that in mind. You might actually tattoo too much of your int away and then you're not going to be able to sustain your tincture nicely. So it's kind of something you have to kind of play around with in game for your specific setup. Okay, so for the clusters, we need 3 8 passive clusters. These can actually be whatever you want. All right. The only one you really need is going to be this one here with the Storm Drinker, so that we get our energy shield leech. You can actually get ones with, if you want, with another notable here. For say something like if you can move Prismatic Heart down here, that's nice because you get 10 max all res. But I mean, what I like to do is I like to have just the one notable and use these 2 nodes here for extra stats. So that means we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 extra nodes that we can use to get fire resistance, all resistance. We can get energy shield. We can get attack and cast speed. We can get attributes. So it's a lot nicer to be able to fix certain things with the build with using your clusters. So the other ones I have up here is going to be Scintillating Idea, because this gives you more max mana, which makes it easier to get enough mana to sustain your tincture. So that's the only reason why I'm using this. If you have enough mana, you can go for something else, right? It really doesn't matter what you get here. Okay, so there's that. And then for the other small nodes, like I said, yeah, just try to get some resistances, some attributes, probably is what you want. The small clusters are going to be all introspection. You don't need, there's no 35% increased effect or 25s included in this version. Also, all you need is an eye level 86 small cluster with 3 passives and you're good to go. You can roll the introspection mod, and what you're trying to get is just fire resistance, or, you know, and all resistance and attributes, right? So I recommend you make these first, and try to get ones that have good resistance and attributes, because then after you've finished all your small clusters, then you can go craft your rings. And when you craft your rings, you know, okay, I'm going to need another 30 strength. So it'll be a lot easier to craft your rings rather than having to say, oh, I need to get another 30 strength somehow on my small clusters, right? That's going to be a lot harder than crafting a ring specifically to fix your attributes and that kind of stuff. Okay, so that is the small clusters. Let's take a look at the 2-sword version. This one, I'm not really sure how well this one will work, because you can see we've lost Aegis, so we've lost a lot of our recovery, so you might be a little bit squishy, specifically to multi-hit attacks, because we have no evasion, we have no avoidance, so we're taking full damage from everything that hits us. So what we're doing to make this sort of at least playable is going to be instant leech with Ghost Reaver. The way we get our leech, Ghost Reaver converts life leech to energy shield. So, I mean, we do have ES leech here anyways, but we get our leech here, instant leech here, and Ghost Reaver. So that's a decent amount of ES leech. And then one thing we can do is we can also go for the Fire Mastery over here for regenerate 1 life per fire res. If we have enough fire res, this will give you a decent amount of regen. So what I've done was I really like this mastery here, the Armor Energy Shield Mastery. Recover 5% of energy shield over 1 second when you take physical damage from enemy hit. This does stack, so if you get hit by a shotgun attack that does physical damage, and let's say a rogue with tornado shot hits you for 10 times with, you know, he shoots tornado shot, hits you 10 times within 1 second, that's going to be 50% of your energy shield recovered over 1 second. So very, very insane recovery. This is also not reduced by less recovery maps or no regen maps. You can run this in no regen and you'll still recover it. So it's extremely strong in maps, this mastery. So either you go for this, or you go for, you can take all these points out and go for the Fire Mastery for regen. Whichever one you want, whatever one you think feels good. I think this is going to be really, really big sustain. That's kind of how we're getting our sustain in this dual wield version. And another thing is we need to get our endurance charges, because we lost our endurance charge on block over here. So we're going, I think a good way to do it is just to do Impossible Escape to Blood Magic to get Inexorable. You could also get rid of this and go for get another Jewel Socket and do a Forbidden Flames Juggernaut, or Unleashed Potential or something like that. Or, you know, if Blood Magic is expensive, you can also go get Supreme Ego and pick up Charisma and then anoint Inexorable on your amulet. So there's a couple of ways you can get your endurance charges. Maybe there's even a Mercenary that gives you endurance charges, right? There is actually a setup I was using before for endurance charges with the Replica Victarios. So this one here is pretty much permanent endurance charges in most cases. So there is that's something you can do, but you need to get endurance charges. So however you do it, this is the only reason why we have this Impossible Escape, is to get endurance charges. Okay, so that is that setup. And then for this setup here, I think you can try this too, the Runegrafts of the Sinistral. This is pretty nice, like 5% more DPS instead of doing the Runegraft of the Warp, right? So you don't really need to do this. You can use the Warp one if you want more duration on your auras and your Vol Smite. But that is pretty much the differences in the build, pretty much. Aside from that, for the gear, we just need an extra sword, and that's pretty much it. Okay, guys, so that is pretty much, we've covered the versions over here. And let's go over the mercenary setups we're going to be using. So the Victario one I was using, or actually, let's just talk about the actual mercenary himself. The main things we need for the build is, obviously we need the Doriani's prototype, and we also do need the Perkle's Toe. This gives us the lucky damage, and then we're going to anoint Infused Flesh because we want to give him Recoup. Recoup, very strong on mercenaries. And then, so in order to mitigate the downsides of Doriani's prototype, first of all, he's not going to die to dots. There's nothing in the game, I think, that will kill him from dots. Like Corrupted Blood is no problem, bleeding's no problem, poison's no problem. My mercenary doesn't even have capped chaos res. Right? It's crazy. These guys are insane. They're pretty much immortal. So the only thing that'll kill him is really, really high damage lightning hit damage. So multi-hit lightning damage is a problem. He just can't keep up with the recovery. I've taken this guy into Ghosted Feared encounters, and he survives a Ghosted Feared Aziri's Double Flame Blast. I mean, that's how tanky he is. Insane. So the only thing that'll kill him is like that lightning damage kind of stuff, right? So in order to kind of mitigate that, what we're doing is we're giving him the Formless Flame as well. This guy is also going to become an armor stacker because armor is going to reduce the amount of lightning damage he's taking from hits, pretty much. So we want him to be a beefy boy. He's going to be armor stacker along with us. And yeah, it works out pretty good. And then if we don't need endurance charges from Victarios, we can also give him a Dawnbreaker, which will sort of help to mitigate some of the lightning damage he takes. It's not perfect, but it works pretty good. For the rings, then we're going to need a ring like this. This is extremely easy to craft, guys. Don't get baited into buying one. Make your own. Basically, it's a 2-mod ring, right? The one I have has a failed fracture from someone. They sold it extremely cheap because it was like a bricked item, right? Failed fracture. But all we need to do is roll a tier 1 resistance, swap that to lightning with harvest, and then craft on fire and cold res and mist it. And it's a very high chance that you get a negative and a positive. Either way, you'll get this ring in a couple of tries. I got it on my first try. And then we just mirror it with Glandra's Touch. Okay, then for the boots, these are whatever, it doesn't matter. Get whatever you want on these, as long as, I mean, I got regen, life regeneration rate, armor, and chaos res. That's pretty much all I care about for the boots. For the gloves, I made some nice ones with Culling Strike, but the only thing that really matters on the item is Culling Strike, and then fire resistance. You want to make sure your mercenary is sort of capped resistances when he's not in your auras, because he will be getting your purity of elements. So he will, when he's near you, pretty much he's going to be capped res, but sometimes he'll kind of go out of your auras. So you want to make sure he is at least capped resistances outside of your auras at least 75%. And then we're also going to be using Immortal Flesh with -30 with the resistance catalyst, so he has -200. If you have a ring like this with like -135 lightning res and a -30 belt, this will put him at -200 with your purity of elements aura. So that's all you really need. If you want him to be even tankier, then you can replace the Perkle's Toe with a Eyes of the Great Wolf with something like this, with lightning damage from hits taken as fire. Then you won't need the Dawnbreaker, and you can give him a rare shield. Okay, so that's the mercenary. Quickly cover some of the other setups. These are just kind of like the upgrade paths. So after you would play this, like, what do I do next? Well, if you want to play Valdos, then you would probably do this, Molten Strike. Play Aegis, then you do this. And you can convert these into like Lightning Strike or whatever if you want, but basically this is sort of your upgrade path, right? You would get you would get the Fire Overcap mod on your body armor. You can also do the Cold Overcap if you want. That works as well. And you just do Purity of Ice and Cold Res stacking instead of Fire. Might be a little bit cheaper. It's actually very good with Aegis because then you don't need to use a Resistance Flask. You can use a Jade Flask here instead and still get 90 max res with Purity of Ice, Aegis, and a lot of aura effect. Then there is like these dual wield versions, you know. These are going to be getting better and better and better as we get better gear. The nice thing you can do is, I included it from this 3 passive voices version and onwards, is that we have a Light of Meaning down here. This is going to give us quite a lot of energy shield, like 1,500-ish energy shield by having it in this area, so that's pretty insane. You see this one up to 12k ES, and I think at endgame versions we'll have like 15k or 14k ES, so kind of insane. And then we have a regen one. Want to cover this one real quick. This is kind of cool. I might actually try this one first. So this one, 5,000 ES regen, gonna be very insane because even though, you know, Guardian got removed from the game and we lost all of our ES regen from there, this would have been 10,000 ES regen back in the day. But anyways, but it's still possible to get very, very high ES regen. 5,000 is quite a lot, and especially considering you're going to be having about 7 to 8, 9 endurance charges. This one actually has 9 endurance charges. So you're going to be very tanky to dots, because dots are going to be doing less damage because of the endurance charges. So this regen is quite a lot more. If you think about it, this is kind of like the same stats you had in Affliction League, because back then you had like maybe 5,000 to 7,000, 8,000 ES regen, but you didn't have endurance charges. So this
is actually about 8,000, 9,000 ES regen if you count the endurance charges compared to back then. So actually very, very good. And the main thing is that we are going to be doing Inquisitor over here because this gives us Consecrated Ground. So that's going to be a big part of our ES regen, and after that we're just building for regen pretty much. With the Fire Regen Mastery, our Watcher's Eye is focused on ES regen. We're taking some ES regen over here, and then we do have a very, very high level Vitality, which just gives us quite a lot of ES regen. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys. That's the kind of guide I wanted to do, mainly cover these kind of lower budget versions. I think from here on out, it's pretty simple. I mean, you pretty much just get the upgrades. You go from here, then you get the body armor and the helmet, and then the 3 passive voices, some better items, get the 1 passive voices, and then you get the mirrored clusters, pretty much. Okay, so that'll be it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. And I will probably be trying out the regen version and the Aegis version next when I go finish all those and go try some mapping strats or whatever. We'll see which one I like, but I'll probably be trying out some of these, maybe try the DPS version just for the lulz, and we'll see what happens. But anyways, that'll be it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.